3 years ago, we closed the red door. Insidious out of the further pries it back open. And it's the furthest from the further this franchise has ever been. Welcome to Scary World, where I walk you through the best, the worst, and the downright disturbing. I'm Arturo Padilla.
Hi.
Let's get into it. Gemma discovers she can travel into the further. Worse, she can bring what's in there back out with her.
Ever since she was born, it's been just the two of us.
Hi.
Hi. We were really happy. Had some sleep. Until I started having these dreams.
The first category is production.
Told you I'd make a movie someday. Huh?
Insidious Out of the Further was directed by Jacob Chase, who previously directed 2020's Come Play. Chase has a good eye for horror, and this movie showcases that. This thing looked good from start to finish. The camera work is sharp. You can see sound technique and vision in every scene. The moves are deliberate, the framing does the work, and the composition is thought out rather than just pointed at whatever the actor is doing. The opening shot alone of our lead Gemma as a little girl standing in the rain is striking and gorgeous. And again, showcasing what Chase can do behind the camera. When the movie steps through into the further, the color and the lighting are exactly what you want out of this series. It nails the Insidious style. That specific look, that specific tone, and especially that specific sound. Joseph Bashara, who's composed music for both the Insidious franchise and the Conjuring franchise, is back to score this one, and it helps tremendously in keeping with the vibes of the further. Nobody watching this is going to be confused about what franchise they are in. This is a technically well-executed movie. And for that, Insidious Out of the Further gets a 2 out of 2 for production. I really like the way this movie looked. They did a good job nailing that vibe that Insidious movies bring to the big screen. From the first shot to the last shot, everything is just well executed and well thought out. Chase and his crew definitely deserves kudos for making this look as good as it did. The next category is story.
Second act needs work.
The screenplay was written by Chase with a story by David Leslie Johnson McGoldrick and Chase himself. But here's my problem. There's a cool idea sitting in the middle of this thing, but it should have been plotted out way better than it was. The story felt more like an Insidious spin-off than a piece of the actual franchise universe. And that's the best way that I can put it. It had the structure of an Insidious movie, all the beats in the right places, but it didn't have the soul of one, if that makes any sense. You can build the skeleton right and still not get any living thing out of it, you know? The worst part is that this thing drags. The second act settles in and just sits there. And then the third act does it again, which makes this movie feel a lot longer than it actually is. By the time things start moving, I'd already started to check out. Fortunately, the climax is solid enough to reel you back in. There's some good action in there and some good horror violence I genuinely didn't see coming. But one thing I will say though, this story was missing Tucker and Specs. That's a hole you feel the entire way through. If not them, you could have stuck Elisa's niece Imogen from the last key in this thing just for continuity's sake. You didn't need to create a whole new character to be the middleman here. You already had one. And for that, Insidious Out of the Further gets a 1 out of 2 for story. The core and the premise of this movie is fine. They just didn't develop it properly. You had a cool idea there where somebody can go to the further and bring something back like Nancy in Nightmare on Elm Street, but it wasn't properly executed. The next category is ensemble.
She's an actress. She's acting.
The cast was fine. Amelia Eve carries this entire movie as our lead Gemma. She's in nearly every frame and she's the one selling the fear, the exhaustion, the mother thing, all of it. Take her out and there's no movie here at all. The rest of the cast is competent, but they're all a little lackluster. Nobody's bad and nobody's memorable either. But nobody ever really shines in these Insidious movies. The cast is usually passable. It's a group of actors making sure the mission statement gets upheld, and that's the job. So this isn't some new failure, it's just the franchise doing what the franchise does. And for that, Out of the Further gets a 1 out of 2 for ensemble. The cast was fine. They did their job, and Amelia Eve does a good job as a lead and she carries the entire movie, as I said. But I do wish there would be some kind of breakthrough moment in the story somewhere where she can really showcase her talent. Unfortunately, like I said, these Insidious movies are all just competently acted for the most part, and the horror is really what people are going there for. It's not really the performances. And this is just another example of that. The next category is horror.
Is it scary?
There was a mixed bag of horror in this movie. And something it did not have was that underlying dread these movies are known for. The previous installments lived on this dread. That low hum in your chest before anything even happens, that scan of the frame to see what's moving or not, this one lacked that. And one of my biggest issues was that the further isn't intimidating anymore. In the past, going into the further always felt daunting, creepy, like you'd crossed over into somewhere you had no business being and might not come back from, just like the characters in the movies. Here, it just felt like another movie set, another location on the schedule. When the scariest place in your mythology starts to read like a soundstage, you've got a big problem that no jump scares is going to fix. To go along with that gripe, the big bad in this movie wasn't even scary at all. His intentions were pretty horrific, but his execution was not. All that said, the movie did have some cool horror moments that shine. The dentist gimmick delivers exactly what you want it to deliver, and it was squirm-inducing every time. They should have leaned on that a heck of a lot more because it was quite effective. And those creepy old people are legitimately unsettling every time they show up on the screen. The movie does lean on them a little bit too much for scares, but it works. Old people are just creepy, what can I say? When this movie decides to actually go for it, it gets there. It just doesn't do it often enough. And for that, Out of the Further gets a 1 out of 2 for horror. I wish they did more. They had the opportunity to do some more creepy stuff, but I guess they couldn't, or they weren't able to, or they just didn't know how to. And these old people I keep talking about, the 3 you see in the trailer a lot, they are the main scares in this movie. You do get some more of the undead in the further, but none of them really stand out like these 3 creepy old people do. And I think that was a big detriment to the entire movie. It just wasn't scary enough. The last category is legacy.
All right, now make up your mind.
I wanted to like Insidious Out of the Further. I really did. I'm a big fan of the Insidious franchise. It has impacted the horror genre immensely, but this one felt completely unnecessary. That's the whole verdict on legacy right there. The lack of Tucker and Specs is a real disappointment. Those 2 were the connective tissue of this series, and the little time we get with Elise is uninspiring. She's there and then she isn't. Now, I'm glad Shaye is still getting her props. She built this franchise and she deserves every check and every bit of that spotlight. But this movie feels further from the further than any other Insidious movie ever has. I thought we were done with this franchise when we finally closed the red door. Hopefully this time it stays shut, because this franchise has run its course. And for that, Insidious Out of the Further gets a 0 out of 2 for legacy. I don't know what to say. This franchise was one of my favorites, and I thought we were done with this. I thought the ending from the previous installment really closed the loop here. And with this one coming out, I thought we were getting another adventure with Elise and Tucker and Specs, but we don't get that here. I really enjoyed Insidious Chapter 3, and I really enjoyed Insidious Chapter 4, The Last Key. Those were the side adventures, the side quests for spectral sightings with Elise and Tucker and Specs. And I enjoyed those movies a lot because it was just fun. It was flat out fun, and they nailed the horror stuff there. But in this one, we really stray far from where those movies came from. And I do hope this is the last one. And if not, they better bring back Tucker and Specs and Elise for more spooky Scooby-Doo kind of adventures next time.
Task. Can you tell me what time it is?
Now it's time to add it all up. For production, Insidious Out of the Further got a 2. For story, it got a 1. For ensemble, it got a 1. For horror, it got a 1. And for legacy, it got a 0. Bringing the total score up to a 5 out of 10. Insidious Out of the Further is a good-looking movie, but the story sags, the Further's lost its teeth, and the pieces that made this series feel like a series just aren't there. If you're a completionist, you've already got your ticket for this one. Everybody else, this is a matinee at best, and it's the 6th one for a reason. You can even enjoy this when it drops on VOD. Insidious Out of the Further is playing in theaters now. I'm Arturo Padilla, and remember, it's a scary world out there, but I am here to walk you through it. See you next time.
Hello, I just wanted to say goodbye.